Perfect. All right. So we might get started with today's webinar. So thank you very much to everyone that has joined today's webinar. So going to be going through CAS 360 and best practice and features of the software. So my name is Damien. I am the Client Success Manager here at BGL. The Client Success team helps clients to onboard onto BGL's cloud-based products. So I'm going to be filling in for Alyssa today. This webinar for CAS 360 is the final one for the year, with the summer holidays not too far away with the end of the year. So they will be returning next year though in February as well. So we'll definitely send out details as soon as we've got some confirmed topics and everything. And that will all be starting up in February again next year as well. Perfect. So just a little bit of housekeeping before we jump into CAS 360 for today's webinar. So the first thing is that today's webinar is being recorded. So definitely will receive a recording, like an email with the recording within a few sort of business days, as well as the slides as well. If you do have any questions throughout the webinar, please pop them into the Q&A in the Zoom console. I've got Alyssa and Jess from the Client Success team that will jump in and answer any of your sort of questions as they come through as well. So in today's webinar, we'll be going through a few things. So we'll be touching on how the alerts work in CAS 360, some of the reports and templates as well, and how they can be customized, as well as annual reviews and preparing some changes in CAS 360 as well. So I'm just going to jump out of the slides and I will, I'll just jump back into CAS 360. So hopefully everyone can, I'll just jump in. Just going to. Perfect. All right. Awesome. So hopefully everyone is able to see CAS 360 on my screen. Now, the first thing that we're going to go through is the green bar at the top of the screen. So the green bar is available in every screen in CAS 360 as well. Okay, so it is a very sort of important bar with a number of different features and things that you can access. The first thing is in the top left-hand corner is the search area. Okay, so within the search itself, there's a few things that you can search for. So the first thing is you could search for a company. At the moment, I'm already in the company section screen, but if I was to search for a company, I can go into a company straight from that search. I can search for a contact, which is indicated through these icons here as well. And you can also search for a trace number as well. So if you know the trace number of a document that you've prepared recently, you can go straight into that trace number as well, particularly if you're trying to lodge a form to ASIC and you want to locate that document very quickly. So that search allows you to search for companies, contacts, and trace numbers. And this is available in any screen in CAS 360. So right now I'm in the company selection screen, but if I navigated to another screen, that green bar, it'll always stay there. And the same with the left-hand side panel as well. In the top right-hand corner, we've got a few different options as well. The first thing is the BGL community. So if I click into the BGL community, it takes us straight to the CAS 361 and has a number of different topics in here. Now, the community is free to join. You can definitely join this if you haven't already. There are other users that use CAS 360 that discuss features that they would like to see in the software, other things relating to ASIC, particularly focusing around the new director ID changes as well. But it's also where our CAS 360 product team and our head of product, Warren, post the new features and release notes. So our product team aims to do a release every month at least, or every few weeks. And once that release has gone out, a set of release notes are prepared as well. So they will be in here. So if I click into the all tags here, and then I click on, for example, update, I can see all of the release notes that have occurred. Okay, so if I was to click into the October 2021 release, all of the release notes are available here, which includes all of the new features and changes that have occurred as part of that release as well. The next icon that we have here is the feedback button on the right-hand side. Now, when using the feedback button, all of the feedback does go to our our product team. So it is definitely reviewed. What happens with all of the feedback that is sent through is that it goes to a number of different people at BGL. It all goes into what we call a wish list. And basically, the more clients that request the same feature, the higher it goes up on that wish list, and the more likely it is going to appear within the software. So all that feedback, anytime that you do want to see something within CAS 360, definitely pop it into the feedback here, and it will be sent to our product team. The next icon that we have here is the notification bell, which I will come back to in a little bit more detail as well. But that pulls through any sort of integration notifications, as well as lodgements with ASIC and any sort of notifications that ASIC sends down to CAS 360 as well. But I will jump back to this one shortly. The next icon that we have here is the help icon. This allows you to access the Zendesk Knowledge Center. So if you ever want to know how to do something within CAS 360 or further information, you can access the Knowledge Center in order to search any sort of questions that you might have in relation to the software. So for example, if I wanted to know how to appoint an officer, I could type that in here. And the step-by-step instructions will be included on how to appoint an officer for a company. So that is the Zendesk Knowledge Center that has all of our help articles as well. The next icon that we have here is our live chat option. That allows you to connect with the BGL support team within about 45 seconds or less. So we did listen to a lot of the feedback where a lot of clients had quick questions, and rather than having to wait a couple of hours for a phone call from our support team, the option to use the live chat allows you to speak to the support team. They definitely are real people, and they will definitely be able to help you and point you in the right direction for any sort of quick questions that you might have. The next icon is the log a support call function. Now, this is for any sort of technical queries as well that you might have, but you might want to discuss them over the phone, or you've got a more in-depth query that might not be able to be resolved over chat. So you can definitely log a support call with the support team as well. So there isn't any sort of limit to the number of support calls that you do log either. You can definitely get in touch with them. They'll be able to guide you in the right direction for anything that you are trying to do within CAS 360. The next icon that we have here is the logout button. So I'm not going to click on that, otherwise it'll be logged out of CAS 360. But if you wanted to obviously safely log out of the software once you have finished for the day, you can definitely use that option. The last sort of couple of tiles that we have here after the line break is the app switcher, which allows you to access the learning channel, which has a series of pre-recorded videos, as well as inviting additional users through the user manager screen, as well as setting up any sort of integrations with third-party providers, such as practice management with Xero Practice Manager, for example, or any sort of digital signing as well. And the last icon that we have here is the profile management area, where you can manage your sort of multi-factor authentication details as well. Perfect. Cool. So I'm just going to jump back into the company selection screen. Now, there's a lot of content within the company selection screen, but a lot of it is very relevant and important as well. So I'm just going to spend a bit of time just explaining the various features of the screen, as well as the notification bell shortly as well. Now, within the main company section screen, this is basically, I guess, the home screen of CAS 360, which has all of the companies that you are managing within your license. A few various things. So we've got these columns here, which have the, for example, the company number, labels, the alerts, annual reviews, and various other columns. Now, if you're already logged into CAS 360 on your end, you may notice that your columns are a little bit different and you're wanting to customize them. And that's definitely possible as well. Okay, so if you would like to change the columns to view other sort of details that are more relevant, you can definitely do that. To do that, it is in this filter columns button here at the top of the screen. So when I click on this, I've got the ability to select up to 7 optional additional columns as part of the columns that I see in my company selection screen. Now, you will also notice that it is at the top of the screen. It mentions that it's just for myself. Okay, so if I want to change the columns that I see, the details that are relevant here, I can pick the columns that I want to see, but it would be different for another user within CAS 360. So they can see the relevant details that they want to see. So for example, if I wanted to change it and have, for example, like a jurisdiction, or if I wanted to remove the billing contact, I could toggle on the jurisdiction instead. If I'm managing companies, for example, in Singapore and New Zealand, which CAS 360 also supports. And I can also reorder the columns just by clicking and holding to drag and drop to move it to be in the order that I would like to see them in as well. Once you have updated those columns and see what the details that you would like to see, we just click on the Save button. And then our columns have now been updated and I can see the jurisdiction column here as well. So just much a nicer way of being able to see various details, especially for larger firms, or if you've got multiple partners and you want to see which partner is attached to each of the companies, you can see all of those details from the screen here as well, without having to go into the company. The next feature that we have is the the labels, which are here on the left-hand side. So we've already got a few labels here. Now, if I want to filter by any of these particular labels, I can simply just click on a label and it will show the companies that currently have that label attached. Now, if I want to only show those particular companies every time I go into the company section screen, I can mark them as a favorite, which means that anytime I go into the company section screen, that will be the default. The labels are customizable. These ones here are ones that our teams popped in just for various purposes. So to add a label to a new company, just by simply clicking on the pencil icon here, I can just type in Damien, and then that will be added as a new label. And we can see that here on the left-hand side as well. If you want to attach a particular label to companies in a more efficient way, like multiple companies, you can go into the Manage Labels area here, select the label that you would like to attach them to multiple companies, and then select the companies that you would like to attach that particular label to. Now, you might be asking, what's the purpose of labels? Like, what does that do for you? It does a couple of various things. So the main thing, one of the things is that you can run a report which has those particular based on the label, which companies are attached to that label. So if, for example, I go into the report screen here on the left-hand side, and I go into companies listing, I go into the labels area, deselect everyone, but select my label, I can see the companies that I attached the label to. So this allows you to then be able to generate a report so that you can see which companies are attached to that particular label as well. So this is good if you've got multiple partners and then they are managed by, so you've got multiple partners and the companies are managed by different partners, and the partner comes to yourself and just says, are you able to generate a report that shows all of the companies that are my clients? This is very easy to be able to run that sort of report. But the second main benefit is the ability to filter by a particular label as well. Now, the next particular area that I want to focus on is the alerts. And these work hand in hand with the notification bell as well for any sort of documents that you're lodging to ASIC. So with the notification bell itself, at the moment, we've got DocuSign enabled for digital signing in this particular license. So we can see that some of the documents have been signed by the clients. Any sort of ASIC lodgements would also appear in here, the debt alerts as well. And in the settings area here, you've got the ability to send for CAS 360 to send an email to yourself as a staff member of a company or staff member of a firm that does a registered agent ASIC corporate compliance. And what will happen is CAS 360 will send this email and it will show all of the relevant information that you would like to see before you start for the day. So for example, I can see details in relation to annual reviews, ASIC invoices, any sort of lodgements and annual returns. And I've got the ability to send that email on a daily basis, once a week, or once a fortnight as well. So if I click on it, for example, to be daily, I can select the days that I work. So I might, for example, work part-time and I might unselect Tuesday and Thursday, which means that CAS 360 will send me an email on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. and it will give me a snapshot of what has happened in CAS 360 so that I know what I'm walking into. So this is a feature that is for yourself that uses CAS 360 for companies. Okay, so that you can see any sort of changes that have occurred, such as ASIC sending down invoices or annual reviews, and any sort of upcoming lodgements as well. Now, this is also a per user feature. So obviously different staff members within a license might work different days. So this feature is a per user basis as well. So you can see the information that's only relevant to yourself. Now with the alerts here, so the first alert that we have is the annual review alert. And we can see here, we've got a couple of different colors. If I want to filter by that particular alert, I can simply just click on the annual review or annual return alert here on the left-hand side. And it will then display the companies that have that alert at the moment. So we can see a lot of red in here, which is obviously not a good thing that annual reviews haven't been received in CAS 360. But one of the powerful features of CAS 360 is that if an annual review has not been received in CAS 360, but was expected to be received, CAS 360 will automatically request the annual review from ASIC 3 days after the annual review date. So if the annual review date was today, the 1st of December, by the 4th of December, CAS 360 would have attempted to retrieve the annual review from ASIC if it was not already received. And then it would try to attempt to receive it every 7 days thereafter, up until the 2 months that the annual review is due. So CAS 360 has those built-in alerts to be able to do them automatically so that you don't miss any annual reviews within the software. If the alert is in green, it means that it has been received and that it is ready to be processed within the software. And we'll go through to the annual review screen shortly as well. If there are any upcoming annual reviews, they would be highlighted in the yellow or orange icon to say so that we know exactly what annual reviews are upcoming. And this is particularly beneficial, especially for clients that might be keeping track of annual reviews in a spreadsheet. It might be much easier to use the alerts in CAS 360 and to eliminate those spreadsheets so that you can manage them simply within CAS 360 itself only. The next alert that we have here on the, so the second one, if I click into, it is shared by the annual review and the document deadline alert. So if I'm tracking the annual reviews, I can see them from that second alert here, as well as any sort of ASIC forms that have been prepared. And if they, any forms that are upcoming for lodgement and the due date, just so that there's no late fees being incurred as well. Now, one thing to also add is that for all of the alerts that are here on the left-hand side, you can also further drill into any of these to see which ones are upcoming for any sort of payments or so any sort of lodgements that are due as well. Now, within this alert here, so what this allows you to do is to send a reminder to the clients for any sort of documents that you have previously sent, but not yet received the signed copies of. Okay, so I can see here, for example, we've got an annual review deadline as well as a document deadline alert. So what I can do is actually go into the send reminder option here. And up on the screen here, it will display the details of any sort of ASIC forms that have been prepared, but they haven't been signed by the clients just yet. Now, other sort of powerful features as well is that you've got the ability to send a reminder via email or SMS. Both options are also available here as well. Now, within here, we've got, so this company is quite bad, I guess. It's got a lot of ASIC forms that have not been signed by the clients. So if I was to click on any of them, I could preview the documents, but would also be able to see when they were due for lodgement, as well as a trace number if you've got those details handy as well. Now, if I was to toggle on one of the documents that needed to be sent as a reminder to the client for digital signing, the status down the bottom here will also show if any of the recipients have already signed any of the documents. Okay, so if I just try to locate one. Yep, so in here. So this is a really good example where we've got DocuSign enabled. In this particular company, Rocco has signed the documents here, but Joan and Francis have not yet signed the documents, which means that if we send a reminder for this particular set of documents, a reminder would be sent to Joan and Francis, but it wouldn't be spamming Rocco because he has already signed the documents. So CAS 360 receives those notifications in line with our digital signing providers to make sure that only the people that need to sign the documents are the ones that appear here when a reminder is sent to them. But definitely with the SMS feature as well, that allows you to be able to communicate with clients in obviously real time as well, same as an email, but most people will typically have their mobile phone with them. So this allows you to send a reminder to a client to remind them to get the documents signed and sent back to you as soon as possible. So very quick sort of way of doing it, and it gets the attention of your clients in a fast format. With the SMS feature as well, it actually allows clients to reply to it as well. So a client could reply to it and say, I've signed the forms, please proceed with lodgement. The feature does allow that two-way communication between yourself as a registered agent, as well as the company as well. The third icon that we have here, the third alert, is the company debt alerts. So from within here, these are automatically updated by CAS 360 with ASIC every day in the morning. So for any sort of companies that you are managing, CAS 360 will automatically lodge an RA67 to ASIC in order to update these company debt alerts. Now for this particular, so if I'm looking at this one here, there is a few sort of companies that do have a debt at the moment. So if I go back into the company over here. So there's a few details that are displayed here on the left-hand side of this alert. So we can see the official ASIC invoice that ASIC has sent down, and it's got the hyperlink to be able to view that invoice as well. We do also receive some of the information from ASIC in relation to what that debt relates to. So we do display here the amounts that ASIC has sent down. So this is how much money is owing to ASIC as well. If the company has a credit, it will also appear in green. If, for example, some of the fees have been overpaid or something like that. Down the bottom here, we've got the option here that says that when the last reminder was sent. So if we didn't want to spam the client too much, we can see that, for example, a reminder was sent on the 10th of November, which means that obviously they haven't paid the fees since then. So it might be time to obviously send a reminder maybe every few days or every week, depending on how late that fee is, so that they don't incur further late fees as well. Now down the bottom here, we've got the ability to refresh the balance. So if it shows the last date updated, but I want to retrieve a new balance because the client has paid the invoice during the day, we've got the ability to refresh the balance here. I can download an invoice, which is generated by CAS 360, and it shows the up-to-date information as well. I can send a reminder to the client as well. So if I want to send a reminder to remind the client to pay the ASIC fees, I can do that from here. So this particular email shows some of the content. For example, it would display the company and how much is owed. And it also actually includes the Pay Now button as well. And that directs them to Australia Post to be able to make payment on that invoice straight away. I jump back into that alert. For any registered agents that are paying the fees on behalf of their client as well, the same shortcut to Australia Post is actually available from within the same alert here as well. So if you are currently going into your internet banking and making payment manually using the BPay details, you can simply just click on the pay button here, which will direct you to Australia Post, and then you can make payment on here very easily as well. It's much more nicer and easier rather than having to log into your internet banking in order to be able to see those details. The last icon that we have here is a new one. So if you've logged into CAS 360 over the last few weeks, this is the fourth and new alert in relation to the new director ID changes as well. Okay, so with the new director ID, so any sort of pre-existing directors prior to November this year, if they were already a director of a company, then they've got a bit of time until the 30th of November next year to apply for a director ID. But any new directors that do apply, any new directors of a company that are assigned, they do require a new director ID within 28 days. It is a bit of a rolled out process. We do have, BGL has run a number of webinars in relation to the director ID changes. So the director ID alert here, if you haven't already had a chance to have a look at it, allows you to be able to see which directors have not yet completed the director ID requirements, but to also send out an email to them indicating the changes. So if I go into the director ID alert, for example, just going to go into, yep, so it's one of the companies. So within here, we've got the ability to send what we call like an initial email, so to notify the client and all of the directors about the new changes relating to the director ID requirements. This indicates all of the changes that have occurred and what the client needs to do in order to apply for a director ID. Okay, so by November, so by this time next year, every director should have a director ID. It is a process that has been a bit of a transition process, but we will include the links to the relevant webinars that we have hosted recently as well in relation to the director IDs, just going through the basics of this feature at the moment. So within this email, it will also indicate that the directors need to apply for a director ID. It has the relevant hyperlinks to the ABRS on how to apply for a director ID. CAS 360 is also smart enough to reflect which companies that they are part of. So if a director is part of multiple companies, it will list all of those companies in here so that they don't receive multiple emails, since they only need one director ID, which is attached to them for all of their companies that they are part of. So when you send the email to one of the directors, it will list all of the companies that is attached to that particular contact, so that they only receive one email per contact in CAS 360. Cool. So I'm just going to go, so if that can be sent to the clients from here. If you wanted to send a reminder to any of the clients once you have already sent them the email, you can click on the send reminder button. And this allows you to send a reminder saying, which reminds the client that you've previously sent them the initial email indicating the changes about the director IDs and that they need to make sure that they've applied for this and communicated the director ID and sent this back to yourself as the registered agent. The director ID is not included on the ASIC forms yet, but that is likely to change in the next sort of couple of years as this process is being rolled out at the moment. Once you have received the director ID for one of your clients, they can be saved against the contact in here. So from within the same alert, I can add a director ID here and pop in the number. It's usually about 15 digits or so, but just pop it in here. It will then be saved against Frank Beard for this particular company and any other companies that Frank Beard is also part of as well. So it makes it much more streamlined, and much more easier to be able to track these director IDs. As I said, they're not on the ASIC forms yet, but in preparation for any sort of changes that do come about in the future, you do have the ability to save those director IDs in here so that when any sort of changes do occur, that you're ready to go and you don't have to chase the clients again to retrieve those director IDs as well. But yeah, so this is definitely a process that is being rolled out at the moment. We will send the relevant details in relation to this. For particularly any sort of new directors, is more of a sort of time stringent that they do need to apply for them fairly quickly. Cool. Just going to check the Q&A at the moment. So there's a question here about the reference number not being the same. So with that one there, Alicia, so definitely check the ASIC invoice. The payment details or the BGL reference number is automatically sent by ASIC when a annual review or invoice is sent down. So it should be correctly populated from there. But if there is an issue, you definitely do get in touch with our support team and we can further investigate that. So a question here about paying the ASIC fee for multiple companies in one go instead of each company. So the feature at the moment is per company because obviously each company has their own separate reference number. So it would need to be done separately for each company if you do choose to use the Pay Australia Post feature. Just having a look at some of the other questions. So the question here from Louisa, as a company, do you need to have a mobile number for your company when sending the SMS? You don't need to have your own mobile number. One thing I'll just add to the SMS feature is that it is free. You don't have to pay any additional costs for the SMS feature. Any sort of text message reminders that you send out to the clients will come from one static number. The reason why it is a static number is because if the client replies to it, CAS 360 needs to be able to retrieve those replies from the clients. They do all populate straight into the notification bell. But if I go into the messages screen, I can see a full correspondence history with any sort of clients as well. Okay, so if I want to see the text messages that have been sent to a client, I can go into the bubble here and see all of the text messages have been sent and also send replies back if I need to. Okay, so you definitely don't have to have your own number. CAS 360 has its own number so that clients can reply to it and it comes back into the software correctly. There's a few more sort of questions that we'll just jump in. So once, if the ASIC invoice has been paid, how is this updated? So from within the company selection screen, so the company debt alerts are automatically updated every morning. So if a payment has been made to ASIC, it shouldn't be included in the next, within a couple of days once payment has been cleared by ASIC. But in the meantime, you can use the refresh balance button here in order to refresh the debts so that they are reflected back to zero as well. Perfect. All right, so there's a few more questions that Jess and Alyssa are helping at the moment with, but we'll definitely jump back to the questions as well towards the end. Now, to be able to process annual reviews, so if I go into the reviews area here on the left-hand side, I can see all of the companies that have an annual review received in CAS 360. So a few various sort of features in relation to this screen here. Now, towards the right-hand side, we've got, again, the ability, obviously, with the labels that we saw from the company selection screen here, which have all populated in this screen here. And then we've also got the comparison report as well. Okay, so what happens is that when an annual review is sent down by ASIC, CAS 360 does a comparison, which compares the details between CAS against ASIC's record. So the company I'm going to be working on as part of my example is AH Super here down the bottom. We've got this failed icon here. So the first thing that we'll normally do is go into that particular screen there, and to see and review the details to see what the sort of issues are between CAS 360 and ASIC. Now, general details tab all looks good, but we can see here at the top of the screen, we've got this pink or red numbers, which means that there is an issue relating to those particular areas of the company. So if I go into the offices area here, we can see that as part of this example, Alyssa's address here. So Alyssa is a director of AH Super. In CAS 360, the address is in Collins Street, but on ASIC's database, it is an address in Brighton East, so the BGL address. Now, for CAS desktop users that have recently moved across to CAS 360, you would notice that this is in a red background, which makes it much easier and much nicer to see that discrepancy without having to squint your eyes to see a discrepancy in bold. It's much nicer and easier to see from here. Now, the first thing when we look at this, the first thing to do is determine which database is correct. Does CAS 360 have the correct information, or does ASIC have the correct information? So if I go into the addresses here, so if I look at this and I can see that the address in Brighton East on ASIC's end is correct, and I simply want to match the details in CAS 360 to match ASIC, I can do that from within this screen here. So anytime you see these details here in blue and underline, you can simply click into it and update the details. So if I was to click on here and type in changing it to 606 to 608, and I save that, it will then get saved. That address will then be saved against the contact automatically, and it will match ASIC's record. Okay, so this is simply just updating CAS 360 to match ASIC's record. If ASIC had so CAS had the correct information and ASIC had the outdated information, then we would go through the correct processes and the relevant processes to prepare a Form 484 as usual and notify ASIC of the change of address. Just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to leave this part here. There's a few sort of other issues with the shares, but I can leave that for the moment. Now, from within the review screen here, so jump back into it after reviewing the details between CAS against ASIC's record. Now, if I want to proceed with preparing the annual review documents, we've got this prepare documents button here on the right-hand side. Okay, so you will notice that this button here is always there. So whether a comparison report has passed or failed, that button will always be there. So common sort of misconception is that you can't prepare the documents until it has passed, but you definitely can. You can prepare the documents even if there is a failed comparison. Okay, so it's definitely recommended to make sure and review the details, but CAS 360 won't stop you from preparing those documents. So I'll click into the prepare documents button here on the right-hand side. And what will come up first is what we call the document production screen. And it will indicate all of the various documents that relate to the annual review. Now, I will touch on templates shortly, but there is a cover letter that is customizable. You can pop in, for example, your logos, template, any sort of additional wording, change the merge fields. We'll go through this shortly, but these document templates are fully customizable. CAS 360 also generates a company statement, annual company statement as well. A couple of main differences if you haven't seen the CAS one before. The main three differences is the first one being the corporate key. So some clients or registered agents don't like for their clients to see the corporate key for a company. So by default, it won't be displayed here on the annual company statement. Once again, this is generated by CAS 360. If I want to display the corporate key, I can go into the options menu and toggle on to show the corporate key if you would like your clients to be able to see those details. The second main difference is that the CAS 360 generated annual company statement has a signing field so that you can get the clients to sign off on it. Obviously the ASIC one doesn't have a signing field, but if you would like your clients to be responsible and make sure that they have actually reviewed the details and ensure that they are correct, you do have the option for them to be able to sign off on the annual company statement, which is particularly useful, even if you're not using digital signing, but also if you do use digital signing, so that this placeholder is automatically applied as well. The third main difference as well is that if a change has occurred, so ASIC did have the incorrect information, a Form 484 has been lodged to ASIC to notify them of that change. The official ASIC annual company statement isn't, the ASIC won't resend a brand new annual company statement. So what CAS 360 allows you to do is to have that updated information so that if the client is signing off on it, that it is correct, that they are signing one where it is after the changes have already been made as well. So as long as the date was before or on the annual review date, and they do sign off on that, that would be reflected within the CAS generated annual company statement. The ASIC annual statement here is the official ASIC company statement with the ASIC invoice that gets sent down. So that would be the one that most clients would be familiar with. The ASIC invoice here is an invoice that's generated by CAS 360, which is normally used in line with the annual company statement generated by CAS 360 as well. So if you wanted to use the CAS one, but then not obviously duplicate it so that you don't send the ASIC one and two invoices to the client, you can generate the CAS one, which has all of the relevant details in relation to the debts and the annual review fee, but this one is generated by CAS 360. The last document down the bottom here is the solvency resolution. So if I click into the solvency resolution here, this allows you to, obviously for the clients and the company directors to sign off on to make sure that they are trading solvent and they're able to pay its debts as they fall due as well. So in terms of combinations that you might have here, you might have, for example, this, so using the CAS generated annual company statement and invoice with the solvency resolution and the cover letter. Or if your clients, or if you prefer to use the ASIC annual statement, you might choose to toggle off the CAS ones, but keep the ASIC annual statement here. And this might be your second sort of combination, otherwise using the official ASIC annual statement. Once you have prepared those documents, you can finalize them by clicking on the download all button or send all. If you have an additional invoice or another document that you would like to include, such as like your firm's annual invoice, you can use the upload button here to attach additional documents into the software as well as part of the document pack. So I'm just going to click on the download all button here for this one. And up here on the screen at the moment is the official document pack based on the ones that I have selected as well. So we've got the solvency resolution, the annual company statement, and the cover letter as well. Perfect. Awesome. So I'll just move on to how the document templates can be customized. Okay, so the ones that we just looked at before with, for example, the annual review cover letter. So all of the document templates in CAS 360 and our email templates are fully customizable as well. So to customize them, what I'll do is navigate to the settings screen here on the left-hand side and click on the document templates here at the top of the screen. And then from here, all of our document templates are included here. For the one that I'm going to be focusing on is the annual review cover letter here. Now, when I open this up, we can see here, for example, the master cover letter, which is included as part of your CAS 360 license. So if you would prefer to start with the CAS one and customize that one, you can definitely start here. But in the screen here, we'll notice that there is a lot of other annual review cover letters that have also been included. So I'm just going to download the master template here for the moment. So multiple templates can be, multiple versions of the same template can be uploaded, which is what we've got here on the screen at the moment. So when I download the master template, it will first open up in a Word document, which we can see here on the screen. And we can see all of these merge fields and details and wording as well. Now, to locate where all of these merge fields are located, they are in the what we call the CAS 360 dictionary, which is accessible through the help menu. So if I go into the CAS 360 help here and go into Australian help, I can search for or even go straight to the CAS 360 dictionary here on the left-hand side. And this, it will include all of the relevant merge fields and codes that I can copy paste straight into the templates. So if I scroll down and I go into the annual review cover letter here down the bottom, this will include all of the relevant merge fields for that particular template that I can include. So I'm just going to make a couple of changes to just demonstrate how we can easily customize these templates. Okay, so if we have a look at what we've got currently in our template. So if I wanted to pop in, for example, the office's address, just as a random example. I'm just going to pop it in here under the office's name that's already in the template. Okay, so we've now just got the office's full name, address, and then the company's details. I can even break that up if I want to separate them. If I wanted to make the company name in bold, I can do that from here as well. If I wanted to make, for example, the document in a red format or red color text, I can do that from here as well. And if I had a logo or anything like that, I can definitely attach any sort of logos as part of this document template as well. So any sort of formatting that you can do in a Word document that you might be manually doing at the moment, you can definitely do in here as to create this template. It might take a little bit of time just depending on how much you would like to customize, but the long-term benefits is definitely important there. So it's a one-time exercise, which will allow you to be able to produce documents in a more efficient manner for all of your companies. So I'm just going to save my template for the moment. And I'm going to jump back into CAS 360 here and use this green upload button here. So if I click on the green upload button, okay, so I can just select the document, which we've got here down the bottom, and then I can make that one the default here. Now, if I've got multiple versions, I can I'm still able to select all of those various versions when I'm preparing the documents. But I've just basically set this one as the default one so that when I go to prepare documents, it's not going to use the CAS one or the other versions that we have. It will use the one that I've prepared here. Now, if I jump back into the review screen here, and I go into the prepare documents button again for an annual review, and I click on the cover letter here, I can see all of the template that I've customized and how it is attached to the relevant company. Okay, so at the click of a button, this template was already prepared, which has all of the relevant details for that company. So you'll be able to see here, for example, that I added the office's address here. And also the text is also in red, which is what we customize. And if there was a logo or anything like that, they would also all be populated as part of this screen here. So once again, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. We will definitely make sure that the recording and the slides are also sent out to everyone that has registered for the webinar. Thank you again for attending the webinars this year. There will be a couple more BGL webinars that we are running, but for this particular series, we will make sure that they do return again in February. So keep a lookout for your emails, and we'll send further details in relation to those as well. Thank you very much, everyone.